Hi. Okay.
Yeah,
Can you hear me clearly?
Dr. Shambhu, yeah, if you need, you can request every participant to introduce themselves briefly in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that would be a good practice. So I request all participants to say about yourself, just who you are and what are you doing and what is your expectation in this training. So just try to keep it short also. I think
I don't know the word.
yeah, we can start. Okay, so please try to introduce one by one. Okay, thank you.
May I request the participants, please introduce yourself one by one.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm Eric from Energy Diagnostics Laboratory, Clinical Laboratory. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Sally. I'm from NUH Department of Lab Medicine. I'm working in a microbiology lab at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm from Energy Diagnostics. I'm a radiographer by training. I work at the imaging department.
Hello. Hi,
Next.
I'm Jenny. I'm working in NUH Molecular Diagnostic Lab.
Next.
Hello, I'm JL. I'm from Queenstown Polyclinic Laboratory. I'm working for Energy Diagnostics.
Hi,
Next.
I'm Sharda. I'm working under Energy Diagnostics Geylang Polyclinic, working as a medical laboratory technologies.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Charito from Energy Diagnostics working in Hougang.
Hello,
Okay.
I'm Madeline from Bukit Batok Polyclinic, working in NAGD also.
Hi. Hi. Yes. Next. Mr. Karthik.
It's done. So we are waiting for a couple of
So,
participants. So I think we can get started. Yeah.
Is my voice is clear?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. But from your side, the voice is broken. I mean the participant voice. I don't know why it is happening. I'm not getting clear voice.
Okay. So participants, please type. So whether you are able to hear Dr. Shambhu's voice clearly. Is he audible to everyone? Please type so that we know what to do.
Hi participants, I'm Dr. Shambhu Chakraborty. Can you hear me clearly? My voice is clear.
I think yeah, everybody say clear. Yeah? So no problem. I think I just go ahead.
Okay. See, this is one-day program on internal quality audit practices. If not possible to complete in any chance, then tomorrow morning I'll take the session. But definitely I will try to finish the program today. See, I hope that all you are aware about the basic requirement of the ISO 15189. Hello? All you are aware? Please interact with me. Say yes or no. Say yes or no. Okay, yes, Shali?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. See, what I'll do, because all you are interested to know how to do internal quality audit at your lab or imaging center. So I would like to tell you about myself. Basically, myself is I'm doctorate in lab medicine quality. I am in this quality for last 25 years. More than 25 years I'm in the quality. I was selected by Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, that is the highest body in India for medical research. And as their committee member in the advisory and drafting committee, the GCLP, Good Clinical Lab Practices of India, which was where I was the member and I was one of the issuing authority of the book. So, and you can say that in the last 25 years, I have done consultancy more than 800 labs, and I mean and more than the 500 hospitals, and across the country and outside of my country, and you can say that more than 2,000 professionals were trained by me. So this is my background, and during my working in this lab and healthcare sector, so what I've learned about the auditing, that I'll share my experience with you. See, first I'll present you that what is the internal audit principle and practices. Then I'll go about the requirement, how we'll do the audit of the each requirement. So this is a formal training for the conducting laboratory internal audit to comply with requirement of ISO 15189 standard. It's not informal training. We should say it is a formal training because it was intimated to you. You are voluntarily participating in the program. This course objective is to assist you in implementing laboratory accreditation system as per requirement of the accreditation body, to qualify you as an internal auditor for doing laboratory or your imaging centers audit internally. See, nowadays the lab or imaging center is basically say CAB, C-A-B, CAB. I mean conformity assessment bodies. Okay, so I'll prefer to address, instead of laboratory or instead of imaging facility, I will tell that CAB. CAB means who are looking for the assessment. Okay, and can help you carrying out the second party audit. So here, what I'm going to share with you, that is the principles of auditing, audit planning and execution, NC reporting and system effectiveness, checklist preparation, TOS examination requirements in the laboratory accreditations, and case studies. I'm not going to present it because in the one day, the case study I cannot present you. So first is the formal definition of the audit. So it started with the formal word. It is a formal activity. A formal activity carried out against policy, quality manual, and procedures to independently examine objective evidence and verify compliance or otherwise with specified requirement, and also judge effectiveness. You see all the black and bold word formal. See, internal audit is always a formal audit. It is not any regulatory body audit that without intimating that some agency will visit, like government, I mean the taxation departments, other vigilance department, they do the audit informally. But it is a quality audit, always a formal activity. When the auditee is informed, auditee and auditor both are agreed, then the audit is carried out. So it is a formal activity carried out against policy. Policy means what are the policies adopted by CAB and their quality manual and procedures. What the quality manual and procedure means, because quality manual is the Apex manual where the CAB documenting their quality, their policies, various policies, quality policies, systems there, and procedures to independently. Yes, obviously, the audit will be independent. Independently audit will be done because it will not be biased. Like you cannot carry out the audit in your own department. Huh? In your own department means your own function. The function you are involved, you cannot do the audit. So we have to do the audit independently, examine objective evidence. Means when you are carrying out the audit, what you have to look for the evidence. Where is evidence? That evidence, what will be evidence? Evidence can be a one testing sample. It can be machine. It can be patient. It can be the calibration record. It can be quality control record. It can be a lead apron. It can be anything which you can verify. So that objective evidence, and verify compliance. And verify compliance means you verify the compliance what you have written in your manual, you have written in your procedures, that you will verify the compliance, or otherwise with specified requirement. Specified requirement means the requirement which is stated in your manual, in your procedures, in your accreditation body guideline, in your regulatory guidelines, and also judge effectiveness. Means our quality, why you are going for quality management system, because we want to get an effective system. So how the system is effective to us. So you can understand now from the definition is a formal activity carried out against policy, quality manual, and procedures to independently examine objective evidence and verify compliance or otherwise we specify requirement, and also judge effectiveness. Now, the difference between the internal auditor and external auditor. See, external auditor means like Singapore Accreditation Council, SAC, when they will do the audit. So they are the external auditor. But when they will audit your lab or your CAB, they will audit the CAB, they have to stick their norms. Means the scope you have applied, because accreditation is not given to the CAB directly. Accreditation is given to the parameters, the test parameter which you have applied for accreditation. So it is a competence of the competence of that. So if you have not applied anything, if you have applied part, so that part will be excluded from the audit. So auditor will stick to the norms, will almost exclusively report on non-conformities, because auditor basic objective is to find out the compliance, and he or she has to report on the non-conformities only, and examine a limited scope of service as you have applied. He or she cannot go beyond your scope. Whereas internal auditor has to detect non-conformities. Means you have to be very careful while you are doing audit that there might be a non-conformities. Our system is not that much of correct. That always the internal auditors will have a doubt. Yes, there might be something I'm missing, and he or she will try to find out the non-conformities in the systems, but can also report on other issues. Other issues means internal issues. Even lot of things we are hiding to the external auditors. During the external auditor, before that we try to decorate our systems to satisfy the auditor, because in that case our objective is that we should pass, we should get the certificate. So a lot of things we are hiding. Maybe that we are not unless the auditor is asking, unless the auditor is looking for the evidences, we are not showing them. So, but here internal auditor, you have a free hand. You can see anything, and you can report any issues. Even employee, even a colleague have the grievances against the other colleague. Even maybe you are not able to store your sample, I mean the adequate sample for a long time because you may not have the -80-degree refrigerators. So because maybe your purchase department has not sanctioned it. So, but these are the issues that you can raise in the internal audit. And it covers the complete scope. You can do it is not the only, you can do the audit only which you have applied. You can do audit of the entire scope because nobody is going to restrict you. It is unrelated to the audited section of the organization, knows the inner working of the organization. You know the strength of the organization. That's why, see, in every assessment, external assessment, the external auditor, they are very much relying and depending on your internal audit. They know that if you do the internal audit vigorously, you can improve your system. They have nothing to do because they are not they are not from your own organization. They are external. They are coming for 1 day or 2 days audit. So they have no time to see your every evidences. So they believe your internal audit. They want that you should have a vigorous and extensive internal audit in your system. Now the scheduled audit and unscheduled audit. What is scheduled audit? Internal audit program is basically a scheduled audit because you have an audit plan in a year. That in a year you have made a plan that the audit of this section, these functions, or these clause will be done this at the time. So it is always in advance. You are intimating your audit plan, your audit schedule to the audit departments. They agreed, and then you carry out the audit. So this is our scheduled audit, and this scheduled audit objective is to examine documentations which you have implemented in your CAB, to identify the problems and things, and to improve your systems. So this is scheduled audit. And unscheduled audit is basically which is not scheduled. Unscheduled audit is basically to investigate the problems. Means maybe you have a customer complaints. You have the patient have the complaint. You have maybe your external quality control has failed, and for any reasons that you want to carry out an audit to find out the root cause. So that is maybe called the unscheduled audit. Now, why internal auditing? We are doing internal audit because is our quality management system is implemented exactly as intended? Quality management systems, the system which you have documented in your quality manual, the system which you have documented in your procedures, your work instructions. So what you have written, is it implemented exactly? To investigate a problem, any problems. A problem means it may be customer complaints, it may be external quality control failure, it may be calibration failure, it may be internal quality control failure, it may be the other issues. So why did it occur? How can it be resolved? How can it be prevented in future? And then identify opportunities to improve. See, what you want that quality management system should give you benefit. Quality management system should not be burden for you. If it becomes burden, then your management system is not working effectively. It may be sometimes what we maintain the repeat record. One master register, then another master register, then from there we are copying another register. So many forms, which is which may be not required, but we have implemented a lot of many forms. So this is may not be required. So in the internal audit, that can be verified as per the requirement of the ISO 15189, whether this system is required or not. From there, you can find out the further improvement of the systems. Does the QMS meet requirements of standards? That is another answer you will try to find out from the internal audit. Audit stages. Stage 1, adequacy audit or intent audit. Adequacy, it means, see, adequacy is basically the document which you have prepared. You have prepared the document as per ISO 15189. Okay, and definitely as per your regulatory body guidelines and your accreditation body like Singapore Accreditation Council, their guidelines. So adequacy audit means the auditor, like being an internal auditor, you will verify the document. Is the document adequately written? Is the system is adequately defined? So it's basically the quality manual versus ISO 15189 requirement. So we have to give you have to give a judgment that this document is adequate. Document, I mean, all the clauses, all the sub clauses of ISO 15189 is addressed correctly in the manual, and manual is linked to the procedures. So each document, whether it's manual or procedures, you are going to assess whether it is adequately written or not. So this is the adequacy audit. Stage 2, compliance or implementation audit. So now once you have completed the adequacy audit, now we are going to check the compliance audit. Means what you have written in the manual, quality manual, what you have written in a procedure, what you have written in your SOP, standard operating procedures. Are you implementing those? Have you implemented what you have written? Are you following the same things what you have documented? So that is the compliance audit or implementation audit. Okay. Next is the effectiveness. As I told you earlier, the quality management system should not be burden for you. Your systems should give you the benefit. If you are not getting the benefit, if you are so much bogged down with your documentation, too much you are busy with your documenting systems or repeat work, it will not give you your effect, but it will not give you the benefit. It will become a burden for you. So you need to judge it whether the system is effective or not. Next, quality audit types. Audit are 3 types: first party, second party, and third party. First party audit is we auditing our own system. Means when we are auditing our own systems, like internal audit, that is the first party audit. Second party audit, when we auditing our subcontractor, vendor, laboratory, suppliers. Suppose, for example, you are going to do the audit of your vendor, how they are storing your reagent. Does they have the adequate refrigerator system, cold chaining systems? How they are storing, how they are maintaining all the things, how they are transporting your reagent kit. So all when you are doing the audit of your vendor or subcontractor, maybe some of the facilities you have given to other CAB, other lab, other imaging center. So in that case, when you are doing audit for approval of that lab, that is called the second party audit. Third party, when you will be audited by the certification body like Singapore Accreditation Council, when SAC, like ISO, when they will do the audit, that is called the third party audit. Audit schedule or audit schedule. It can be annual, but the basic requirement basic requirement is that at least globally it is considered, unless there is any guideline by the local accreditation council, as per ILAC norms, that you have to carry out at least one full internal audit annually, at least full, and that audit. Can you mute, Mr. Vayu? Can you mute your sound? In the audit, always in the one audit, you have to cover or address all the element of your quality management system standards, like ISO 15189, all the standard, all the clauses and sub clauses to be addressed, all the your relevant department and functionality to be audited, and frequency that you will decide. As per norms, that at least once in a year, but it can be more depending on the scenario of your, the strength and weakness of your systems. If you are weak in particular systems, particular area, it may be the audit schedule may be changed. It can be twice in a year, it can be thrice in a year, that you can schedule the audit accordingly. Documents used in the internal auditing. So when you are going to carry out the audit, what you will carry? You will carry a checklist. It will be easy for you. If the checklist is with you, then you can make a plan what to see, what look at, what look for. What more? You will carry a non-conformance and corrective action request forms, NC forms. What more? Audit reporting forms. How we note down your audit reportings? Where you note down? That format. Internal audit procedures. Documenting the audit programs. What you do? Like others, procedures in your department, like your document control, like your purchase, like your quality control, like your calibrations. You have a lot of procedures. Similarly, you have to document the internal audit procedures. In the internal audit procedures, what will you document? You have to document selection and training of auditors, scheduling audits, responsibilities of auditors, preparation, conducting and reporting on audits, identifying, resolving and following up corrective actions, reporting audit results to management. So these are the points you have to address in the procedures. Specified requirement for quality management system audit can be stated as follows. Customer requirements. Specified requirement means, once again, I would like to inform you that is very much important word. Whenever you will do the audit in the lab or your imaging facilities, always you have to take care that you are doing audit against the requirement. What is the requirement? First requirement is that your ISO 15189. That whenever you are going to ask any question, whenever you are going to see, check or verify any evidence, that must be linked with your ISO 15189. What more? Your manuals, your procedures. Maybe not maybe ISO 15189, but it's your own policies. So you'll do the audit, you're against your own policies and procedures. What more? Singapore Accreditation Council guideline. You see the SAC, Singapore, they have published their guideline for the laboratory. Specific, that is called the specific criteria for the lab, specific criteria for the imaging facilities. You'll find, if you go to the Singapore Accreditation Council site website, please visit there, and you'll find the 2 documents are there. 2 and more documents are there. That is the document for your lab facility, the lab requirement, specific requirement for the imaging facility, requirement for the calibrations of the equipment. So we have to verify those, whether your laboratory, whether your imaging facility is complying the Singapore Accreditation Council guideline requirement or not. So you can count it, that what are the specified requirement. One is your ISO 15189. Second is your document, manual and procedures. Third is your Singapore Accreditation Council guidelines, what they have mentioned. Fourth is other than Singapore Accreditation Council, if you have a statutory regulatory body, like you are dealing the radiations for imaging facility, you are dealing radiation, isotopes, radiations, gamma X-ray, other isotopes are used. So the local in the Singapore government, any authorities are there who are controlling the radiation matters. So what is their guidelines? That is also to be followed. And customer, last is the customer requirement. Customer means there are many customers, many type of customers. Customer may be the patient directly. Customer may be the corporates. When the corporate sponsoring their employees for testings. So corporate, they have a special requirement for you. So that is also to be considered as a specified requirement. Okay. So these are all the specified requirements. When you will do the audit, you have to do the audit against a specified requirement. You cannot raise a non-conformance without mentioning a specified requirement. You have to mention that this requirement is stated in the manual. This requirement is stated in the ISO 15189. This requirement is stated in this document. This requirement is stated in the Singapore Accreditation Council guideline. This requirement is stated in this regulatory body. So it is not complying. It is not maintained. So you are raising a non-conformance. Okay. Objective evidence. When you will do audit, you will verify the evidences. A testing sample can be an objective evidence. A lead apron can be your objective evidence. The contrast vial, that can be objective evidence. Reagent box, reagent kit, that can be your objective evidence. A machine can be, a calibration sticker can be, a calibration report can be, a quality control report can be, external quality assurance report can be, internal quality control report can be, audit statement can be. So all are the objective evidence. Or you can say that is the evidence which exists in our system, that is the uninfluenced by the emotion or prejudice, can be stated, can be documented, is about quality, can be quantitative, can be qualitative, can be verified. So if these are the features are there, that is called the objective evidence. Objective evidence source, as I explained you earlier, same source, it is verifiable and traceable. Audit sample. Sample doesn't mean the patient sample always. A patient sample is a sample. A sample is the evidence. Any evidence you are carrying, you are picking up, that is samples. Sample can have a size from this date to this date. 5 samples, 6 samples, 8 samples. Maybe 1 month quality control data is audit samples. Your calibration, 1 year calibration data, that can be audit samples. Your last 7 days testing data, that may be audit samples. So this is called the audit sample. So this is the terminology. This terminology, you have to be acquainted with all this terminology so that you can use while you are doing the audit. Non-conformance. What is non-conformance? Non-conformance is a judgmental term. When you are stating this is a non-conformance, it means you are stating that it is a judgment from your side. They will give a judgment that in that we are stating that the quality system or part of it does not comply with requirements. Action is required. Non-compliance must be substantiated with observations or findings and backed by objective evidence. It means when you are stating a non-conformance, as I told you earlier, the non-conformance will be always against a specified requirement, and you have to show the evidence, objective evidence. So this is the evidence and this is the requirement. Show it's a non-compliance. Show it's a non-conformance or non-compliance. So it is always taken the requirement. This against evidence. So It is a judgment. Judging system effectiveness, I have already explained you that ultimately you have to evaluate how your system is improved. Repeated non-conformance. Repeated non-conformance, basically when a non-conformance occurs repeatedly, and that is dangerous. That is, even a minor non-conformance happening repeatedly, that is major. Your any department, maybe in the biochemistry, maybe in the your CT scan, maybe your X-ray, maybe your hematology, we found that calibration is not there. Should it repeat non-conformance? Even maybe in one audit you have raised the non-conformance, and again the next audit you found the same things. Means last time what you have given raised the NCs, this time also same NC is happening. It means that you have not taken the right corrective action, or either you have not done nothing, or your corrective action is not effective. So repeated non-conformance is serious in nature. Auditor's criteria, who can be auditor? See, auditor's first thing is the requirement of the specified requirement. If you do not know the ISO 15189, if you do not know the Singapore Accreditation Council guidelines, what is SHAC is stating in their imaging guidelines and lab guideline, you can't do the audit. So this is the first thing. You should know what is the specified requirement. And second thing, that collecting objective evidence or for compliance or otherwise. Second thing, you should know how to collect the objective evidence. Which evidence we should collect. Drawing the representative samples. See, you will see in the labs, your facilities, a lot of samples are there. Lot of samples. But a good auditor can pick up a sample which can speak about the department functions. Like you in the labs, maybe the technologist or technicians, what is your terminology? Maybe a senior technologist, maybe the aware of all the function activities. But if you can pick up a junior, he or she may not be able to speak all. But here maybe but if you want to know how the system awareness is happened, how the system awareness is working, so a junior can speak better. A senior can speak a lot of things correctly. But whether the properly induction training is given or not, whether he or she is properly trained or not, a junior can speak you more. So even you can say that if you want to assess that the stability of the samples or turnaround time of your testing samples, so what kind of sample you should first verify. So in that case, you see that it may be the ammonia samples, prothrombin samples, ESR sample, prothrombin sample, ammonia, semen. So all can be your in the lookout. So that where you can judge the correctly whether the laboratory is maintaining the proper turnaround time or not, and how they are processing the sample within time frame or not, and the stability of the sample also. So like this, you have to when you look at the representative sample, it can speak all others. If your ammonia sample or ESR sample is or prothrombin sample is tested within the 4 hours time, it may be that laboratory is very much aware about the process. So maybe other samples they are storing good. So this is the thing. You have to choose the samples which labile sample which can speak about your storage condition, which can speak about the turnaround time. Last is the asking right questions. How do you ask the question to the auditee? That is also important. Following audit trails. Audit trails means once you have started the audit, and how the information you are carrying from that section to the other sections, other functionality. That is audit trail, so that you can correlate what you have seen in the collection room, what you have seen in the front office, and what you are watching and observing in the labs or imaging facilities. And recognizing the non-conformance, yes, you are working as a judge, so you have to give a judgment. Unless you are a very good judge, you cannot give a judgment whether it is a non-conformance or not. Judging effectiveness and audit frequency. So this is the criteria for the auditors. What I have explained you is this. This I have already explained you. Asking right questions, auditor will do audit by asking open-end questions. That I will explain you. Audit trail I have explained you. This also explained you. Audit life cycle. We say that is the PERC. P for planning, E for execution, R for reporting, C for closeout. This is audit life cycle. Means basically this is the life cycle. It started with the audit plan. First, you're planning of the audit. When you will do the audit, audit plan, audit schedules. First, you prepare that. Then develop a checklist. Then conduct an opening meeting. Then gather evidence. Then record the results. Then call the closing meeting. Then submit audit report. So this is the cycle. Step by step, you have to carry out for the audit. Audit planning and preparation for the audit. Checklist. Audit checklist. Checklist means basically you are preparing yourself that when you're going to for audit, what to look at, what to look for. So if you can list it down, it's basically listing as per clause wise. As per clause wise, they're listing down all the requirements. Then what you see during the audit. But there are benefits also, there are drawbacks also. Benefits of the checklist is basically that it can help you definitely. It can help you definitely to, but it can make you safe. You have to be very careful that checklist should not be master on you. I mean, checklist become the driver. So that should not be. The remote should be in your hand. Checklist should not work as a remote. You should work as a remote. The way you will use the checklist. Checklist will help you to verify or to check your various evidences, but not to guided by completely checklist. It may be happen sometimes that you are following the entire checklist, but you have missed some of the important things when you are doing auditing. How to prepare checklist? Convert clauses of the standard into questions. Using these questions, I mean basically when you convert a clause into questions, this is the first thing of the checklist. And under these questions, what do you look at? What do you look for? That you have to find out. So that is a checklist. Using these questions and quality manual, plan what to look at and why to look for. Consider the sample size. How big the sample size will be there? How many samples you will verify? Asking right questions. As I told you, the auditors, one of the important tools is that how the auditor is asking question to the auditee. Auditor should always use the open-end question, not the closed-end question. What is the difference between open-end and closed-end? Open-end question means from one question you can generate another question, and closed-end question means from one question you cannot generate further questions. Is a closed-end. For example, if you are asking the laboratory, like in hematology sections, that show me your quality control record. What will be happen? That your hematologist will show your quality assurance, quality control record. Okay, so it is a closed-end questions. But if you ask the hematologist, how do you validate your test result? or if he's not able to understand how do you validate, how do you ensure the quality of your hematology? Then he or she will start speaking. Yes, we are running the control every day. We are doing the external quality assurance. We are doing the retesting of sample. We are doing the replicate testing of samples. So lot of questions will come. Okay. So this is called the open-end question, and that is called the closed-end questions. Open-end questions where questions create opportunity for further opening of the questions to verify the system and methodologies. Open-end questions: what is your quality control policy? How do you transport sample in the laboratory from site? All are coming down your open-end questions. In the audit, we say the 7 friends. These 7 friends are basically our open-end questions tools. What are those? Who does it? What is done? Where is it done? Why is it done? When does it get done? How it is done? Show me. Show me is the last. Show me is your closed-end question, last. So you have to use these 7 friends for when or why you are doing the audit. Or in other way, 6W1H: who, what, where, when, which, why, how. Audit skills, definitely, as one is definitely the auditor's requirement is the knowing the specified criteria, ISO 15109, Singapore Accreditation Council guidelines, and how in the auditor's quality should be like collecting the representative samples. Auditor should ask the open-end question, and also skills, that is the fact-finding techniques. You are not, for audit, you are not going to do audit to find out the fault. You are going to find out the fact, how they are working, and how it's complying the requirement. You are not going to give punishment to anyone. You are going to find out the fact. Auditing skill, it is a fact-finding technique, not fault-finding. Ask, verify, and observe. This is the auditing skill. Now the audit skill, one of the important skill of the audit, that is called the what kind of audit methodology you will follow. There are two types of audit methodology. One is the horizontal audit, one is the vertical audit. Horizontal audit is basically this examine one element in a process on more than one item. It is a detailed check of a particular aspect of the documentation and implementation of the quality management system or examination process. And vertical audit is this examines more than one element in a process or one item. I think it is not clear. So let me explain you what is horizontal audit and vertical audit. Horizontal audit basically, for example, if you are doing audit in your sample collection rooms. Okay. In the sample collection room, what you will do audit? You will see how the phlebotomist collecting the samples, how the patient preparation is done, how the sample is collected, how the sample is stored, how the sample is the centrifugation is done, how the sample is transported to the lab. So this is the horizontal audit. Now, horizontal audit is basically when you are in a particular section, a particular functional area, you are verifying all the elements. And vertical audit means you have looked at one sample in the sample collection room. Maybe your prothrombin time sample, you have seen that they collected a prothrombin time sample. Maybe a cortisol sample is collected. Maybe a USR sample is collected, and then you are vertically you are visiting lab. How the sample, when the sample is tested, how the sample is testing is done, for the sample, what reagent is used. So vertically, from one section to one section, when you are traveling, you are checking more than one element from one or entire journey of their sample. But a sample from the collection to up to reporting, it is become vertical audit. So horizontal audit is basically when you are doing audit in a particular section or functions, that is a horizontal audit. Vertical audit is when you are taking one sample, you are traveling to the other department, you are visiting to other sections, and you are cross-sectionally when you are doing audit, it becomes vertical audit. The advantage and disadvantage of the horizontal and vertical audit is that in the horizontal audit, maybe the horizontally the sample is correct. Maybe a sample is corrected in the correct time. But when you are visiting the sample, there is no entries, non-compliance in the collection room. But same sample may have the wrongly treated in the testings. Maybe testing is not done in proper time. If time samples may be testing should be done within 4 hours time, but it is taking the more than time. So it become the vertically sample is wrong. And so this is the one thing. And second thing is that vertically, if you have chosen a wrong sample means you have chosen one sample that vertically everything is right. Everything is right. So vertical audit, it will take much time. It will be very time consuming. Vertical audit. So we are recommending that you will do the audit both mixed audit, horizontal audit and vertical audit. You will do a mixed audit, horizontal audit and vertical audit. Some horizontal, some vertical. Just you see, just given an example. Horizontal sample, vertical sample, location, what to check. You see, horizontal sample at phlebotomy room. Phlebotomy room, what you see, the horizontal sample, accommodation conditions, space for patient, space for guide, hand wash systems. Then what to check, space adequacy, whether space is sufficient or not. Equipment, what you look, equipment, phlebotomy chair, centrifuge, shaker, refrigerator, wire. Then what to check, ergonomics of the chair, availability and use, vial expiry, receiving and dispatch of the store. So this is basically your horizontal samples. But if you take vertical sample, you take a ESS sample. ESS sample ID number show and show, and you just checking, you are checking laboratory receiving, hematology reporting sections, collection time, receiving time, processing, quality control, identification samples. So it is vertically. Cement sample ID number, show and show, laboratory receiving, clinical pathology and reporting, receiving time, method, storage, QC. Culture sample ID number, show and show, laboratory receiving, mitogen reporting, sterility, processing. So it is become vertically. So you see, first 2 is the horizontal sample, second 3 is the cement, ESR and culture is become vertical sample. So this is the main difference between your horizontal audit and vertical audit. Reporting, very much important. Reporting means your report quality will speak how good auditor you are. Your first things that if you find in a lab, in a cab, most of the things are compliance. Most of the things, because as most of the things are complying, that's why they are surviving. Non-compliance are very few. Non-compliance are very few. So what you do, you have to note down in your record sheet, in a format, all the content, what you have seen, whether it is compliance, whether it is non-compliance, which clause you have seen, what is the sample size, everything you are noting down in a format. So that is called the notes. Your notes should be very much exhaustive. Notes should be very legible. Anybody can read, anybody can understand while reading your notes. Even that can be helpful for the next audit. If any other auditor can read your audit notes, can understand what was the last audit is carried out. In the last audit, what sample size was observed, what was the objective evidence was checked, what are the requirement was checked. So that will be helpful for the other auditors to make the audit plan accordingly. So audit reporting is very much important. It must be very legible, very clearly all the facts must be noted there. So these are some of the things that, like recording of non-compliance report, aspect to be considered, exact observation of the fact, where was it found, what was found, why it is a non-compliance. use local language, make it readable, make it helpful. Why non-conformance shall be neatly worded and should not be subject to interpretation. So this is the basic reporting quality. System effectiveness means after audit, you are preparing a report, audit summary report. In the summary report, you say about that strength of the audit, strength of the departmental section, weakness of the departmental sections, how much system is implemented, how much system is effective, which is not required, which is repeated. So all this you can write down in your summary of the report. So that is that will speak about the effectiveness of the systems. Audit checklist formats. This is the way you can prepare audit checklist. Clause number, requirement of the ISO 15189-2012. Yes, no, not applicable, comments. This is the way you can prepare a checklist. First, when you are preparing checklist, first find out the scope of service of the department. Find out the application of various clauses of ISO 15189 requirement. This application of chapter horizontally and vertically. Find out the applicable standard as well as objective evidence. This is nothing. It is not that much tough. Basically, what you'll do you'll have to find out what is the scope of the departments, and what are the clauses are applicable in the department. Like if you are doing audit if you are audit sample collection room, in sample collection room, what are the clauses will be applicable? 5.1 will be applicable, 5.2 applicable, 5.4 applicable, 5.3 applicable, but 5.6 is not applicable. So we have to find out that in a particular department section which clause is applicable. Now, from under this clause, what are the points to be checked for the department? That you have to find out. Like 5.2.4 staff facilities. Does the laboratory have adequate access to washrooms? Supply of drinking water facilities for storage of personal protective equipment or clothing? So these simple questions. Do the patient sample collection facilities have separate reception, waiting and collection area? I have given you one checklist. I hope all you have got it. So there you can, that we'll discuss today. I'm just escaping it because we'll discuss in the checklist. Oh, so this is the audit report. Sorry. So this you can see the format, name of auditors, date of audit. But this is your audit report content. This content you have to note down. What is the clause number? Document reference, what document you have checked? Observation. In the observation, you write what is a compliance, what is non-compliance. Yeah, I have seen sample number show and show, sample size from this date to this date. This date to this date. And found is maintaining all these are the information, sample collection time, sample receiving time, or patient preparation checked. Of the patient ID number show and show. This was the test imaging requirement was there, and this is the preparation, like barium X-ray, barium meal has taken. It is previously advice is given to them, so it is compliance. Objective evidence, maybe the sample number show and show, or patient ID number show and show. Objective evidence, NC, not NC, or not complying, NC. So like this format, like this kind of format you can use. That exactly what is your findings. What is the findings that you can note down here? This is a typical example of one non-conformance format. Non-conformance format is basically when you are giving a judgment that this system is not complying with the requirement, so this becomes non-conformance. Like audit number show and show means audit number means nothing. Audit number is basically in a year, maybe first audit or second audit or third audit, you can give a number. You can give a date when you are doing audit. Auditor name you can give. Department section, which department you are auditing, hematology, CT scan, X-ray, activity assessed, patient preparations, or just how the image is taken care, or how the testing process is done. Auditing names, NC number, and reference of the laboratory clause number. 151 clause number, description of non-conformance. You can write down here what NC you have got with a specified requirement and evidence. Then the corrective action proposed. what the auditor has proposed the corrective action, then response to timelines, then the corrective action taken. Again you have to, again auditor will write what exactly when the non-conformance is raised, at that time one corrective action is proposed. Maybe it may be sometimes that may not be viable for that, or maybe laterally they have changed the corrective actions. Show exactly what action is taken, and then you have to do again a follow-up audit. Being an internal auditor, most of the cases it is your responsibility, as you are raising NC, you have to close out the NC also. So you can you can visit the particular section in that department, and you can follow up that whether NC is closed or not. Here you are giving a comment, yes, NC is closed or NC is not closed. So this is the way you have to fill up the form. Now you see, I'm giving an example of how to write a non-conformance. What I told you, the non-conformance is a judgmental term, means you are giving judgment. You are giving judgment means against a specified requirement, against the objective evidence, you are writing NC. So here at a fact, the auditor did the audit, and found auditor has picked up one kit, glucose kit, and auditor verified with the purchase department, is vertical audit, that this kit is not purchased from the approved vendor, but in the manual it is written that the kit will be purchased from the approved vendors. So auditor is raising NC, quality manual section EQM 25.0 clause number 4.2a states that test kits shall be purchased from the approved vendor only. Messrs. Anderson and Company supply glucose kit of the batch number so and so is not listed in the approved vendor list available with Mr. Sudarshan Kumar in charge purchase. You see, this NC is a complete NC. This NC, this non-compliance is complete non-compliance. It is here clearly mentioned the specified requirement. Where the requirement? Manual. Quality manual section EQM 25.0 clause number 4.2a state. It means auditor has written in the quality manual that they will purchase from the approved vendor only. And what is the evidence? Evidence is Messrs. Anderson Company supply glucose kit batch number so and so. So this kit is not purchased from the approved vendor only. So that is NC. So here specified requirement and objective evidence both have written. So then it is NC. Auditor cannot raise NC from their mind, from their own. Auditor has to speak about the specified requirement. Auditor has to show the objective evidence. Then it will be NC. And then its system is now what category of NC? System is not implemented. Signature of auditors, and then the corrective action. All the existing vendors supplying the test kit and reagents shall be reviewed as per approval registration criteria stated in the quality manual as so and so. It shall be amended according to the vendor list. Now, follow-up audit is carried out in so and so date and found that all the kits are purchased from the approved vendor only. So this is your complete NC. So this is all about the internal audit principle and practice. If you have any question, you can ask me, or you can write in the chat box.
Thank you, Dr. Shambhu. I think I did not see any questions in the chat box. If any of the participants has any question, please unmute your microphone and you can ask him now. Otherwise, he will move on to the next part. I think you can upload the next set of slides while waiting for any questions.
Fine. I hope they have understood.
Definitely, yes, I guess, yes. It was good. Yes, yeah, we will share the recording for everybody. Yeah.